centre directs the states to enforce strict implementation of the lockdown amid the outbreak of coronavirus, asks district and state authorities to seal the borders effectively, urges authorities to make essential items available, directs states to make all arrangements for migrant workers at their workplace, including timely payment of wages. Steps on a war footing against COVID-19. Emphasis on strengthening health services, 10 groups created. Masks and ventilators ordered from abroad. 47 private labs allowed tests. The number of infected people increases to 979, 25 deaths so far. Prime Minister Narendra Modi shares his thoughts in Mann Ki Baat, focusing on COVID-19 situation. The Prime Minister says lockdown was the only option to fight the pandemic, says we need to take inspiration from frontline soldiers like doctors, nurses and paramedic staff in our fight against COVID, hails the real heroes who work to supply our daily life goods and services. Prime Minister makes an appeal to increase social distancing but reduce emotional distancing during the lockdown, says that such times require us to take sensitive steps towards the poor, feed vulnerable in testing times, advises that people should take an inspiration from those who won the battle against COVID-19. Prime Minister Narendra Modi at the helm of India's fight against COVID-19. The Prime Minister continues to interact with over 200 stakeholders and people on a daily basis. Also gets first-hand feedback from various quarters. President Ramnath Kovind leads the nation in contributing to Prime Minister Cares Fund. Legislators, film and sports personalities, industrialists and entrepreneurs across the country pledge support to the fund for fighting COVID-19 after the Prime Minister's appeal. And total COVID-19 positive cases in India rise to 124. Coronavirus claims 25 lives across the country, 86 people cured or discharged so far. And also coronavirus claims more than 28,000 lives across the world. Now we're moving on to our next, our top story. In fact, the centre has directed states to enforce strict implementation of lockdown. In an official directive to the states, the centre has asked the states to enforce a lockdown strictly. The Cabinet Secretary and MHA are in constant touch with state chief secretaries and DGPs. The video conference were held by the Cabinet Secretary and the Home Secretary last evening and this morning with Chief Secretaries and DGPs. By and large, there has been an effective implementation of the guidelines across all states and union territories. Essential supplies have been maintained. The situation is being monitored around the clock and necessary measures have been taken as required. However, there has been a movement of migrant workers in some parts of the country and directions were issued that district and state borders should be effectively sealed. The states have been directed to ensure that there is no movement of people across cities or on highways. Only movement of goods should be allowed. And the DMs and SPs, they should be made personally responsible for the implementation of these directions, which have been issued under the Disaster Management Act. Adequate arrangements for food and shelter of the poor and needy people, including migrant laborers, to be made at the place of their work. The centre had yesterday issued orders for use of SDRF funds for this purpose. Sufficient funds are available with the states under this head, and the states have been told to ensure timely payment of wages as well to laborers at their place of work during the period of lockdown without any delay. House rent should not be demanded from laborers during this period. Action will be taken against those who are asking laborers or students to vacate their premises. Those who have violated the lockdown and traveled during the period of lockdown will be subject to a minimum of 14 days of quarantine in government quarantine facilities. Detailed instructions on monitoring of such persons during quarantine these instructions have also been issued to states, and it was impressed upon all the states that 3 weeks of strict enforcement is essential to contain the spread of the coronavirus, and this is in the interests of everybody. Meanwhile, the Union Home Ministry, in a fresh directive, has said that states and union territory administrations, they shall ensure adequate arrangements of temporary shelters and provisions of food for the poor and needy people, including migrant laborers who are stranded due to the lockdown measures. The migrant people have to be kept in the nearest shelter. All employers have to make wage payments of the workers at the workplace on the due date without deduction for the period of the lockdown. In a media briefing on the current situation of the novel coronavirus in the country, the Joint Secretary in the Health Ministry, Love Agarwal, has said that the Health Secretary has asked states to ensure dedicated hospitals and beds for treating coronavirus patients.
सेक्रेटरी हेल्थ ने स्टेट्स के सभी सेक्रेटरी हेल्थ से बात करते हुए उनसे ये भी कहा है कि जब हम कोविड-19 के लिए बेड्स की संख्या बढ़ा रहे हैं, आइसोलेशन बेड्स को ऑर्गेनाइज कर रहे हैं, तो हमें ये इंश्योर करना होगा कि जो एग्जिस्टिंग हॉस्पिटल हैं कोविड-19 के पेशेंट्स के लिए वो डेडिकेटेड ब्लॉक्स हों या स्पेसिफिक हॉस्पिटल ऑर्गेनाइज किए जाएं ताकि वहां उन पेशेंट्स का दूसरे पेशेंट से इंटरमिंगलिंग होते हुए इन्फेक्शन के चांसेस ना हों। इसी के तहत ऑलरेडी कई स्टेट्स और सेंट्रल मिनिस्ट्रीज के जो हॉस्पिटल्स हैं वहां पर ऑलरेडी उन्होंने एग्जिस्टिंग पेशेंट्स को ईयर मार्क डेडिकेटेड हॉस्पिटल से दूसरे हॉस्पिटल में शिफ्ट भी करने का कार्य शुरू कर दिया है।
And the Joint Secretary Health, Love Agarwal, also said that 10 empowered groups have been created with focus areas like additional focus on medical emergency management, further upgradation of isolation beds, quarantine facilities, among others.
माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी के आदेश अनुसार 10 एम्पावर्ड ग्रुप आज बनाए गए हैं। उन एम्पावर्ड ग्रुप के द्वारा जो अब तक कार्य हम हर लेवल पर करते आ रहे हैं, उसके साथ ही देश के जो अन्य सचिव हैं, अन्य सेक्रेटरी रैंक के सीनियर ऑफिसर्स हैं, उनको भी इस कार्य में पहले भी वो इन्वॉल्व थे, बट एक फोकस्ड वे में कैसे वो हम सबको गाइडेंस प्रोवाइड कर सकें, कैसे हम आइडेंटिफाइड चैलेंजेस पर काम कर सकें, ऐसे 10 एम्पावर्ड ग्रुप बनाए हैं। जब मैं आपकी दृष्टि में लाना चाहूँगा, उसके फोकस एरियाज हैं कि कैसे हम मेडिकल इमरजेंसी मैनेजमेंट पर एडिशनल फोकस लाएं। इसके साथ ही हम आइसोलेशन बेड्स, हॉस्पिटल और क्वारंटाइन फैसिलिटीज़ को कैसे फर्दर अपग्रेड करें, हम कैसे इसेंशियल मेडिकल इक्विपमेंट और सप्लाईज, वेंटिलेटर्स, पीपीईज को कैसे बढ़ा सकें।
35,000 tests have been conducted so far. 113 labs are functioning now and 47 private labs have been given clearance.
जो भी टेस्ट ऑफर कर रहे हैं उसमें कोई कमी लगती नहीं, लेकिन एक चीज़ हमको याद रखना है कि हर इंसान जो वो इंडिकेशन के अंदर बैठता हो कि जिसको टेस्ट की ज़रूरी है, उसकी अगर टेस्ट हो गई तो हमको वो ज़्यादा पता चलेगा। लेकिन कवरेज जो है, कवरेज के हिसाब से हम 30% पे हैं और जो जिसको अगर अपटेक करना है तो वो कर सकता है, उसमें कोई हिंड्रेंस नहीं है।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi shared his thoughts in Mann Ki Baat radio program focusing on COVID-19 situation. The Prime Minister asserted that the battle against COVID-19 is a tough one and it did require harsh decisions. He also said that the lockdown has been put in place to protect the people and their families. He also mentioned that significant work is being done by people across the country in the fight against the coronavirus.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke at length on the coronavirus pandemic and crisis caused due to it in his monthly broadcast, Mann Ki Baat. The PM urged people to keep calm and observe restraint during lockdown.
सबसे पहले मैं सभी देशवासियों से क्षमा मांगता हूं और मेरी आत्मा कहती है कि आप मुझे जरूर क्षमा करेंगे, क्योंकि कुछ ऐसे निर्णय लेने पड़े हैं जिसकी वजह से आपको कई तरह की कठिनाइयां उठानी पड़ रही हैं। खास करके मेरे गरीब भाई बहनों को देखता हूं तो जरूर लगता है कि उनको लगता होगा कि ऐसा कैसा प्रधानमंत्री है, हमें इस मुसीबत में डाल दिया। उनसे भी मैं विशेष रूप से क्षमा मांगता हूं। हो सकता है बहुत से लोग मुझसे नाराज भी होंगे कि ऐसे कैसे सबको घर में बंद कर रहे हो। मैं आपकी दिक्कतें समझता हूं, आपकी परेशानी भी समझता हूं, लेकिन भारत जैसे 130 करोड़ की आबादी वाले देश को कोरोना के खिलाफ लड़ाई के लिए ये कदम उठाए बिना कोई रास्ता नहीं था। कोरोना के खिलाफ लड़ाई जीवन और मृत्यु के बीच की लड़ाई है और इस लड़ाई में हमें जीतना है और इसीलिए ये कठोर कदम उठाने बहुत आवश्यक थे।
Prime Minister Modi also said there are many warriors who are battling coronavirus, not just from their homes, but from outside.
साथियों, इस लड़ाई के अनेकों योद्धा ऐसे हैं जो घरों में नहीं, घरों के बाहर रहकर कोरोना वायरस का मुकाबला कर रहे हैं। जो हमारे फ्रंटलाइन सोल्जर्स हैं, खास करके हमारी नर्सिस बहनें हैं, नर्सिस का काम करने वाले भाई हैं, डॉक्टर हैं, पैरामेडिकल स्टाफ हैं, ऐसे साथी जो कोरोना को पराजित कर चुके हैं, आज हमें उनसे प्रेरणा लेनी है। बीते दिनों में मैंने ऐसे कुछ लोगों से फोन पर बात की है, उनका उत्साह भी बढ़ाया है और उनसे बातें करके मेरा भी उत्साह बढ़ा है। मैंने उनसे बहुत कुछ सीखा है।
He further said, in this battle against COVID-19, there are many people around us who are real heroes, standing at the forefront.
मेरे प्यारे देशवासियों, कोरोना वायरस के खिलाफ इस जंग में हमारे आसपास ऐसे अनेक लोग हैं जो समाज के रियल हीरो हैं और इस परिस्थिति में भी सबसे आगे खड़े हैं। मुझे नरेंद्र मोदी ऐप पर, नमो ऐप पर बेंगलुरु के निरंजन सुधाकर हेबाले जी ने लिखा है कि ऐसे लोग डेली लाइफ हीरोज हैं। ये बात सही भी है। ये वो लोग हैं जिनकी वजह से हमारी रोजमर्रा की जिंदगी आसानी से चलती रहती है। आप कल्पना करिए कि एक दिन आपके घरों में नल में आने वाला पानी बंद हो जाए या फिर आपके घर की बिजली अचानक कट जाए, तब ये डेली लाइफ हीरोज ही होते हैं जो हमारी दिक्कतों को दूर करते हैं। जरा आप अपने पड़ोस में मौजूद छोटी परचून की दुकान के बारे में सोचिए। आज के इस कठिन समय में वो दुकानदार भी जोखिम उठा रहा है। आखिर किस लिए? इसलिए ना कि आपको जरूरत का सामान मिलने में कोई परेशानी ना हो। ठीक इसी प्रकार उन ड्राइवर्स, उन वर्कर्स के बारे में सोचिए जो बिना रुके अपने काम में डटे हैं ताकि देश भर में आवश्यक वस्तुओं की सप्लाई चेन में कोई रुकावट ना आए। आपने देखा होगा बैंकिंग सेवाओं को सरकार ने चालू रखा है और बैंकिंग सेक्टर के हमारे लोग पूरे लगन से, पूरे मन से इस लड़ाई का नेतृत्व करते हुए बैंकों को संभालते हैं, आपकी सेवा में मौजूद है।
On behalf of all countrymen, the Prime Minister expressed gratitude, requesting these people to take all safety precautions for themselves and their families. Bureau Report, DD India.
And Prime Minister Narendra Modi is continuing his interaction with various stakeholders in India's fight against COVID-19. The Prime Minister interacted with over 200 people. He interacts with them on a daily basis, over 200 people, which include phone calls to various state governors, also chief ministers, health ministers, to get a first-hand feedback on India's fight against COVID-19 menace. The Prime Minister telephonically reaches out to various doctors, nurses, health workers and sanitation staff from various corners of the country in order to encourage them and to pay gratitude to their yeoman service to the nation and society. The PM also interacted with people from various walks of life through video conferencing in an effort to control the spread of the coronavirus. He held discussions through video conferencing with the heads of various electronic media groups. He interacted with the heads of various print media groups. On the 24th of March, the Prime Minister is in both these cases appealed to the media that they should counter pessimism and panic through positive communication. On the 27th of this month, the Prime Minister held a video conference with various radio jockeys and announcers of All India Radio. He said that there's a need to constantly celebrate the contribution of local heroes at the national level and boost their morale. He also telephonically reaches out to some of those who are affected with the coronavirus and to some of those who have recovered from its effects, and in order to keep an update on their progress. The Prime Minister in a special video interaction on the 25th of March with his constituents in Varanasi, had appealed for resolve, restraint and sensitivity and exhorted the people to adapt to the best practices in fighting the virus. Now, it's said that every dark cloud has a silver lining, and while the entire nation braves the outbreak of the pandemic, there are also times and instances that show that there's hope. Hope still lives, and that's also in this hour of crisis. So we have some positive news. We bring you instances also which show how the nation stands united in this difficult time, and with the aim of providing further impetus to meet the challenge of COVID-19, the Prime Minister has set up PM Cares Fund, in which citizens can make donations themselves. The Prime Minister shared this information on Twitter. He tweeted, "People from all walks of life express their desire to donate to India's war against COVID-19. Respecting that spirit, the Prime Minister's Citizen Assistance and Relief in Emergency Situations Fund has been constituted." This will go a long way in creating a healthier India. He appealed to all Indians to contribute to PM Cares Fund. This fund will also cater to similar distressing situations if they occur in times ahead. The Prime Minister's Cares Fund accepts micro donations too. It will strengthen disaster management capacities, encourage research on protecting citizens. And he said, "Let's leave no stone unturned to make India healthier and more prosperous for our future generations." Now, let's give you the information about this account where you can contribute to this fund. And the name of the account is PM Cares. It is 2121 PM 20202, and the IFSC code is SBIN 0000691. The SWIFT code is SBININBB 104. The UPI ID is PM Cares at SBI. The name of the branch is State Bank of India, New Delhi Main Branch. President Ramnath Kovind has pledged to donate 1 month's salary to PM Cares Fund to help the nation tide over the crisis of COVID-19. In a tweet, he appealed to all fellow citizens to donate generously to PM Cares Fund to help defeat COVID-19. Following his example, Rashtrapati Bhavan employees are also making voluntary contributions to PM Cares Fund. The Arunachal Pradesh surveillance officer Dr. Jampa has said that not a single positive case of COVID-19 has been found in the state. He said that the report of 19 samples received so far has been negative, while 2 more suspicious cases have been sent for investigation.
अभी सैंपल जो जितना कलेक्ट कर रहे हैं वो टेस्ट रिपोर्ट हम लोग डेली आ रहे हैं, तो अभी आज तक 19 सैंपल्स all 19 samples have tested negative, none are positive. यहाँ से ट्रिम्स में एक सैंपल और कलेक्ट हुआ है, और आज फिर थोड़ा हम लोग वहाँ से कुरुकुमे में इंफॉर्मेशन मिला है, वहाँ में भी एक सैंपल कलेक्शन हो रहा है. दोनों सैंपल आज बाय शाम वहाँ पहुँच जाएगा डिब्रूगढ़ में, तो रिपोर्ट कल मिल जाएगा. तो टोटल सैंपल हो जाएगा हम लोगों को 21 सैंपल्स.
Our correspondents across the country are tracking all the developments related to COVID-19. Let's look at Vishal Barrister's report from Jaipur, reporting on transport arrangements made for migrant workers and the situation in the state in the wake of COVID-19. Listen in.
Special arrangements have been made by Rajasthan Roadways for the migratory workers stuck in the lockdown. 1,100 such workers are being taken to the borders of UP, Haryana and Gujarat. Along with that, buses are also plying in 15 different districts. The positive cases in Rajasthan has crossed the 50 mark, and as preventive measures, curfew has been imposed in Bhilwara, which stops the tally with 25 positive cases, followed by Jhunjhunu. Here in Jaipur, in 7 police stations, curfew has been imposed, that is in the walled city. Today, in Jodhpur, 275 evacuees from Iran have reached by Indigo and SpiceJet flights. Earlier also, such flights have brought evacuees from Iran, and now they are in the wellness facility center of Indian Army, both in Jaipur and Jaisalmer. As preventive measures, government are asking people to stay indoors, and all the essential commodities are being provided. With cameraman Hanuman in Jaipur, this is Vishal Baristo, DD India.
So in Kolkata too, there is barely any activity on the streets. The scene on the Howrah Bridge is no different. Here's our correspondent Anibrato reporting on the ground situation in Kolkata.
The city Kolkata responding overwhelmingly to Prime Minister's call of 21 days lockdown, because people know to defeat the deadly corona, this is an unsurmountable measure, this is an unputdownable measure the Prime Minister has taken, and they are truly adhering the Prime Minister's call. Here at this place where I am standing, behind my backdrop, as you can see, this is Howrah Station. Every day, this Howrah Station bears the footfall of more than 1 million passengers. So this place always remains abuzz with activities. But you see, right at this point of time, 1 or 2 vehicles are rolling down the road, but otherwise this place is wearing entirely a deserted look. This Howrah Bridge, what is popularly known as Robindra Setu, it adjoins Kolkata and Howrah. Every day we find this Howrah Bridge bear heavy traffic movement. More than, it bears, more than a million vehicle moves down this Howrah Bridge. But right at this point of time, 1 or 2 vehicles are moving down, but they are actually meeting certain urgencies. In otherwise you find this intensive Naka checking is going on. As you can see, the police men are standing there. They are keeping a watch on the entire vehicular movement here, as you can see. And so we can see the city is responding overwhelmingly the Prime Minister's call of 21 days lockdown. Because as you know, Prime Minister has said the war of Mahabharata was won in 18 days. And Prime Minister has given call of 21 days lockdown. He said that if we remain adhere to his call and keep ourselves indoor, we can defeat the deadly corona. Yes, that's what the people here in Kolkata are doing. Here, there, everywhere, the city wears an entirely desolate look. This is with cameraman Ashok Sharma and Shubir Das. I am Anibrato Bhattacharya for DD News, Kolkata.
So the coronavirus has claimed over 28,000 lives across the globe. Spain has announced stricter measures. The Spanish Prime Minister has announced a stricter lockdown that will force all non-essential workers to stay at home for the next 2 weeks, which will start from the 30th of March to the 9th of April. Now, within 24 hours, 838 people have died in Spain, taking the toll to 6,528. The total infections have crossed 78,000 in Spain.